Here we go. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Likutey Moharan Shir, Wednesday night's Likutey Moharan Shir. Today, Baruch Hashem, Bezat Hashem Yisbarach, we're starting a new Torah, and we are learning Keseder, the timely Torah is Torah Chaf Hei, but we are learning Torah Chaf Daled. Because we finished Torah Chaf Gimel, we're learning Torah Chaf Daled, Bezat Hashem, Hashem Yisbarach will grant us the zchus of learning Torah Sabbeinu, all of them, and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with it, Bezat Hashem. And maybe taste just a dash from what the Rebbeinu wants to tell us and mean for us. So we are talking about a Maaseh from Saba de Be'atuna. That's another one. Chav Gimel was the first Maaseh. We explained what's the whole premise of this argument between Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania and the sages of Athens. And we said already once before that that kind of really opaque exchange of seemingly, very almost nonsensical exchanges obviously hide great serious Torah. And the Gra and the Ritva and the Masha speak about this, about these fantastic debates, as it were, that seemingly al pi pshat make absolutely no sense. And they all say that this is basically an argument between Yaakov and Esav. That's the argument between the Goyim and Am Yisrael. And the whole mahalach of the sages of Athens is, Ben Rosh, as we read in Godash Pesach. Ben Rosh says, Ma avoida zo yislachem. I mean, supposedly, the Ben Chacham, the wise son, and the wicked son asked the same question. Ma avodah zo yislachem. What is this? The difference is that the Ben Chacham is asking his question with a question mark. What is it? Questions are 100% fine. You can ask all the questions in the world. The Rasha, the Ben Rasha, he's asking the question with an exclamation mark. It's not a question. It's a statement. That's the whole halach yelach of the Saba de Be'atuna. That's the philosophy of the sages of Athens. Everything that you're doing is meaningless. Either they're saying that whatever you do is meaningless, or they say there's no hope for you. That's the gang of Sarah de Berton, from beginning to end. First of all, in the first one, Terech of Gimel, we learned that Sarah de Bertuna are saying, what is the source of falsehood? And Rabbi Shlomo Moharan told him that it's Avodah Zarah, it's Taivas Momen, and he answered them that their philosophy is barren. It cannot propagate. Nothing will ever come of it. And he says there is a way of getting out of it, and this is through Tikkun Abris. So they react in kind of a joke, the Torah says to the Yisrael, suggests to Moshe Rabbeinu, find yourself Anashim, Chachomim, Yiduim, famous Soina Betza, hate money. So the joke that they ask about it is that, okay, you can find wise people, you can find famously, honest people. Where do you find people who hate money? So the joke is, for money, you can find people who hate money as well. That is the gang of Sarah de Bertuna. That is the picursus that goes underneath the surface. Now, the story that is going on is that they meet together with him. I mean, that's the second. The meeting with the second question that they ask him. Actually, the first one is not the first one in the Gemara, but anyhow, Amruli, they told him, this is the Shon Rabbeinu's Chon Bracha. Likutey Moharan, B'chlal, in general, is a supremely precise sefer. A place where the language is actually Lashon Rabbeinu, is actually the original, the way that Reb Nosson received it in writing. Even the letters, every letter is in its right place. And there are quite a few Torahs that Rabbeinu took out from the middle of the sentence certain words that were essential to understanding the issue. Without those words, whatever Rabbeinu is saying is not understandable. But nevertheless, Rabbeinu was extremely careful about what to reveal and what not to reveal, to the nth degree. We're talking about, nano-precision, on what to say, what not to say, how things are spelled, what proof Rabbeinu brings. Many times, in order to understand the proofs that Rabbeinu bring, is you have to go to where the beginning is, where that proof is, and learn the whole inyan, the whole pasuk, learn the whole sugya, and then you're able to understand brand new things into Rabbeinu's Torah. And the proof is not just saying, here, let me tell you why what I'm saying, what I said is right, but he gives you a whole different perspective and depth of understanding the Torah in Likutey Moharan. And the proofs that Rabbeinu brings and the proofs that Rabbeinu does not bring are both extremely precise to say what he's saying, what is the meaning of what he's saying, and what isn't the meaning of what he's saying. They're both just as important. I think I probably shared it with you, but I saw a sikha that we learned together on Shabbos, when it was. The Rabbeinu says, how is it possible that we are allowing, quote unquote, the Kodesh Baruch Hu to make decrees, to decree decrees? And he says, when a Jew comes, how do you prevent a Kodesh Baruch Hu from making decrees? I mean, who are we? So Rabbeinu says that what you need to do is not say to Kodesh Baruch Hu, don't make decrees. That doesn't work. What you need to do is you need to come to Kodesh Baruch Hu and beg him to bring you closer to him. That's what you need to do. And when you do this, when a Jew does that, Kodesh Baruch Hu forgoes everything that he's busy with, all the decrees that he's busy with, and he turns to you, to be makar of you, to pay attention to you, and does not make those decrees. So that sounds like, it's very Hasidish sounding, saying it's like, but I found for this a source in the Torah. The Torah says this exactly like that. In last week, Pashas Kedushin, the Torah says, anyone who gives his son over to the idolatry of the Moloch, and he says, V'nosati ponai b'yishahu, and I will put my face into that person to take care of him, if other people don't take care of him, I'll take care of him. V'nosati ponai b'yishahu, and I will put my face in that person. Rashi says, Mefurish, what is v'nosati ponai b'yishahu? Pnai shali means I make myself available. Pnai shali, shani oizev kol hasokai, that I let go of all my businesses, whatever it is that I do, whatever it is I'm busy with, upoin elov, and I'm turning to him. And we have a klal that midat toivo supersedes 500 times the midah ra. So madoch, a person is serving idols, is guilty of idolatry, which is midah ra. It goes away from the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Kodesh Baruch Hu leaves everything and turns to him. When the Yid asks Kodesh Baruch Hu to bring him closer to Hashem, how much more so? It's 500 times more true. Kodesh Baruch Hu lets go of everything and turns to that person, and mimela, as a side effect, as a side benefit, as it were, the decrees do not get decreed. There are many different avonos in this. One of the things that you need to understand, and it is the fact that why would a Kodesh Baruch Hu do that? The answer is in both times. Avodah Zarah ba'olam, when there is idolatry in the world, charon af ba'olam, there's anger in the world. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns to this person because this person is actually, angering HaKadosh Baruch Hu by his idolatry. So it's a big chesed from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he turns to him. Because according to what Rabbeinu is saying, the meaning from it, the inference is What would a Kadosh Baruch Hu do? Kadosh Baruch Hu, when a person does such an evil thing, Kadosh Baruch Hu makes decrees. So it's a chesed. Kadosh Baruch Hu turns to him. In other words, I don't make decrees. I turn to him. Up to a certain point, and everybody else is guilty of it. But when a person begs the Kadosh Baruch Hu to bring him closer to him, you're actually ameliorating Kadosh Baruch Hu's anger over the entire world, the entire Jewish nation. As the Rambam says, a person should always see the entire world as, half guilty and half innocent. And when you're doing a mitzvah, you're turning the scales to schos, and so forth and so on. So the second question is, Terech of Daled, says the Gemara, says Bechiris, Amrulei Emtsauso de Alma. Where is the center of the world? He put up his fingers. Amrulei right here. He says, who says? Says who? What's your proof? Bring, rope and measure. If you don't believe me, go ahead and measure. It seems like we know that the Zohar already says, from that period, from an older period, that the world is round. So the question doesn't make any sense at all. Any place is a center. Why does he have to point up his fingers and say here? Why isn't one of them enough? Just point up your fingers. Just say here. But we're talking about something completely different. The Rebbeinu reveals to us we're not talking about the geographical placement of the middle of the world. We're talking about the beginning and the chayas, the life-giving force that gives existence to everything that exists. There are answers. This is what that question, they want to say that there's no way to access it. And this is what Rabbeinu says. Da sheyesh or, you should know that there is a light. That is beyond the nefesh and the ruach and the neshama of a person. Vehu or ensof, and that's the light of infinity. Again, we're talking about infinity is not just a light that doesn't end. It's also a light that has never begun. It's a light that always existed, will always exist, and always exists. When we say Olam Haba, we're not saying the Olam that comes in the future after life in this world. We're talking a world that is constantly coming. Haba is present continuous. So Or Ein Sof, this is an unbelievably exalted Bechina. It's beyond all the worlds. It's even beyond Atzilus, beyond Adam Kadmon. Beyond Atzilus, Bria, Atzir, that they are the source of the Nefesh Ruach Neshama of a person. And this is the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself that has no beginning and has no end. and it's totally unfathomable. There's no differentiation of that light, but there's also no differentiation already in a much slower madrega. Already in madrega the neshama, there's no differentiation. In the sphere sachochma, there's no differentiation. Only the bina makes the first differentiation. We're talking about something which is beyond the beyond. It says Rabbeinu, Afalpi she'en hasechel masi goisoyu, even though it is not possible for the human mind to grasp this light. Afalpichem, two things. Redifa de machshava lemirdof basri. The thought of a person chases to comprehend it, to get it. This is that insatiable movement to know more. That the entire humanity is compels the entire humanity to look onwards and onwards and more and more and more, and to find out more secrets and more secrets. The main difference between this light and this endeavor to know more and the world's endeavor to know more is that the perspective from which they're looking at things is a olam hazadika perspective. It's a perspective of this world. It's a gashmistic, it's a physical, it's a material perspective. And because a human being in this world is destined to end his life, there's never any point in any of these advancements. You take doctors that they find more things and more things and more things. Ultimately, they don't change the paradigm. They're talking about, okay, in theory, a person should never die. Should never get sick, should never die, should never age. But Lamaisa, the paradigm is not changing. Well, 10 years here, 10 years there, 20 years here, 20 years there. It doesn't change the paradigm. They just spent, I don't know how many billions of dollars in sending a kind of I don't know if it's a telescope or whatever it is, to outer space to look back and get something from the beginning of the world. Let's say that they will get something, some kind of evidence. No. And therefore, what does it mean? What does it get you? I heard Rabbi Katz, a magnificent rabbi and doctor, South African doctor, very brilliant. And when he was giving a talk about the very beginning of Corona, when the inoculation, the vaccines, and there were all kinds of conspiracy theories about the fact that that it's unsafe, that it causes men to become infertile, whatever it is. And Another thing he says, how can you say that? The whole thing is, at that time was 3 months old. The vaccines were just 3 months old. And this is the very definition of infertility is, if a person tries, to propagate and progenate for 12 months. So, and he didn't take away, the possibility of conspiracies. He said, did that happen? For sure. By governments? For sure. Are they capable of doing it? Yes. Have they done it? Yes. Does that mean that this is a conspiracy? No. Bring me a fact. Bring me something, to hang my hat on. And how do you study it? And this is all positive. But he said a very, very poignant point. Apparently, his own father was a physician as well. And he said that if he would practice medicine the way his father practiced medicine, he'd be put in jail. Because everything that scientists find is wrong per definition. You just don't know it yet. In 10 years' time, they'll show you that you were wrong. So that means that you are wrong a priori. That means that all this chasing of knowledge that they do, it doesn't make them happy. It doesn't change the situation. And there is no point in it. But the reason for it is because a human being was created with that kind of thirst for knowledge. Because at its base, this is the generator, the nuclear facility that generates the insatiable drive to get the revelation of this Or Ein Sof. This Or Ein Sof, the infinite light of Kadosh Baruch Hu, is the source of all pleasure. The world was created for pleasure. You have to take a choice. Do you want to enjoy this world? Or do you want to enjoy the next one? You get what you want. And that joy, that eternal joy is meeting and grasping the countenance of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The world, as we learn on Thursday night, the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Memale Kol Almin, V'Sevev Kol Almin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is surrounds all the worlds and he fills all the worlds. Rabbeinu says in the Torah says that obviously there's a difference between surrounding and filling, because otherwise everything would be one. There's a boundary between them. Right now, the way the world is, there is no creation, including the highest angels, that can possibly grasp the light of Kadosh Baruch Hu from the Bechina of Sevev Kol Almin, surrounds all the world, beyond all the world, beyond all existence. Because the minute a person is exposed, or any creation is exposed to that, it ceases to exist. It becomes part of infinity, of Ein Sof. It loses its distinction. While the creation is, what you can grasp is is the Memala Kolamin, from the light that is within the worlds that I created. But right now, with every single movement that you do, every single thing that you do, as Rabbeinu says in Torah Mentes, you are actually creating sort of like a spaceship, as it were, okay, that will enable the Jewish neshamas to grasp the light of infinity without levushim, without boundaries. How's it? And without boundaries and without stopping to exist, without, nullifying themselves. And that particular level is called the Bechina of Bina Eloah, the supernal Bina. Supernal Bina is beyond, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, reveal yourself to me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Lo Yireni Ha'odom V'chai, a person cannot see me and continue to live. So he put him in Nikras Etzur, he put him in the cave, in a rock cave. This is, obviously, we're talking about this Bina Eloah. This is there you will be protected and you will be able to see behind me with whatever secrets that means. Here we are talking about that light of the beyond that right now in this world, the neshama chase to grasp it, chase to have a gear with it, and is able to actually touch it in this world as well. This is what we're talking about. So even though the intellect cannot possibly grasp that light, it is in the nature of the machshava to chase that. And in this is value. They are a difa. And in the virtue of chasing it, as a sechel nosig also, then the mind, the intellect can grasp that light, something of that light, mivchinas mate velo mate. Mate means reaches, velo mate, and does not reach. It can get it in like, you get it and you don't get it at the same time. That kind of get it and not get it at the same time is the source of all the rachamim in the world. Is the source of all the asagas in the world. You can see it, what is the ultimate rachamim? Ultimate rachamim is 13 midos of rachamim, right? Hashem, kel rachum v'chanon, erech apayim rav chesed ve'emet, motzeh chesed la'alofim, and צריך לעלות, וחסד וחטא ונקה. We say v'nakeh, we finished the last one, and we say the 13th is v'nakeh. But we continue the pasuk, it says v'nakeh lo yenakeh. The 13th one includes two opposites. The Baruch Hu says, and he will be cleaned, lo yenakeh, and he won't be cleaned. In other words, two opposites. Mate velo mate. That's the source of all the 13. In a lower madrega, you have the 13 midos that the Torah, the codes of the Torah can be understood. That halacha can be processed from the raw Chumash. So we have 13 formulas with which you feed the pasuk in one end, and out comes the halacha. This is what happened when Moshe Rabbeinu was alive. You know that he any halacha we wanted to know, we just go and ask Moshe Rabbeinu. If Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know, he says no problem. I'm going to ask Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's going to tell me. I'll tell you. Moshe Rabbeinu was mistalik. This is 300 halachas were forgotten in the days of the morning of Moshe Rabbeinu. So Yeshua ben Nun was in trouble. People expected him, to deliver the goods, which is halacha, which is the light of Kadosh Baruch Hu, what Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do. The same way that it was in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeshua ben Nun couldn't do it. So Asniel ben Knaz brought these halacha back using the 13 midos shater and the 13 formulas with which the Torah, is being processed in order to find what the halachas are. And he brought them back, these 300 halachas. Until now, until the days of Yeshua, there was no need to use those formulas. Moshe Rabbeinu told you what the halacha is. Now, after Moshe Rabbeinu, when the story is greater, the tzaddik leaves the world, you need the 13 midos. The last one of the 13 midos, Shnei ksuvim, makhishim ze, two psukim that contradict one another. Ad sheva kosav hashlishi v'cher b'neim. Until comes a third pasuk and actually decides between them. It is parallel to v'nakeh lo yanakeh. That's the source of Or Ensuf. Mate v'lo mate. Ki be'emes, in truth, yefshar la'asigo. It is not possible to grasp that light. Kelemala min nefesh, ruach, v'neshama. It is way beyond nefesh, ruach, and neshama. One of the things that are crucial to understand is that the light of the tzaddik is beyond us the same way. In other words, the same way that Or Ein Sof is not graspable per definition. This was just so far that you simply can't get there fast enough, or we can get there high. It's not a technical problem. In other words, it's not a problem of quantity. It's a problem of quality, of essence. And not only the tzaddik. Tzaddik is what we consider to be Ein Sof, Baruch Hu, Keviyahol, that's what the tzaddik is. The Baruch Hu is way beyond that. As Rabbeinu says, you can tell Kadosh Baruch Hu's greatness from me, from himself, from him. He says, because look at me, and after all, I'm just a person. I'm just a shtickle person, he says. I'm just a piece of person. After everything is said and done. But the thing that we need to understand here, it's not just true about the tzaddik, it's also true about you. When you take one step further, when you daven, not even the whole tefillah, alavai the whole tefillah, one bracha and shmona esrei b'kavana, you have become something else. You have changed your essence, and it is different and superior to what you were before you daven that bracha b'chavon in a relationship that is practically infinite. And when you think about it, it makes simple sense. What have you done? You have taken a step towards infinity. You actually advanced towards infinity. On one hand, when compared to infinity, you haven't moved at all. On the other hand, any movement toward any part of infinity is infinite in itself. Divide infinity to as many parts as you want. The part that particle that you end up with is also infinite. And that kind of contradiction, on one hand, you haven't moved from your place at all. You look the same, you feel the same, you're moaning about the same thing, you're whining about the same things, just like you did before. But you're something else entirely. Because you're dealing with infinity. This is what, with just that thing that we learned just now, have changed you and me now, tonight, infinitely. And we feel that we haven't moved at all because we're trying to measure things in feelings. You know, do I feel inspired? Do I feel B'ezrat Hashem is Baruch. Baruch should help us. B'ezrat Hashem, we will meet next Wednesday and continue the safe base of this incredible, magnificent, infinite Torah of Rabbeinu HaKadosh. B'ezrat Hashem, we will see each other tomorrow as we return to B'ezrat Hashem term and tests. So, Kol Tov and good evening.
Our